The Kobe child murders in 1997 are one of Japan's darkest and most haunting criminal cases. It shook the nation to its core and left a lasting scar on the collective memory of the Japanese people. The case is a grim reminder of how fragile childhood innocence can be and how deeply tragedy can affect a community. Today, we dive into the chilling details of this case, exploring the crime itself, the investigation, the public reaction, and the lasting impact it had on Japan's society and criminal justice system. The story begins on a quiet evening in Kobe, a city known for its peaceful neighborhoods and scenic views. On March 17, 1997, a young girl named Megumi Yokota, who was just 6 years old, went missing from her home. Megumi had been playing near her house, as children often do, but she never returned. Her disappearance triggered an intense search effort by family, friends, and local authorities. The police combed the neighborhood, interviewed witnesses, and tried to piece together any clues about where Megumi might have gone. What made this case particularly disturbing was how quickly suspicion fell on a young boy named Shinji, who was only 14 at the time. Shinji was a troubled teenager known for his strange behavior and withdrawn nature. According to reports, he had a history of minor offenses and was somewhat isolated from his peers. On the surface, it seemed unlikely that a child could be responsible for something so horrific, but the police soon began to focus their investigation on him. As the investigation unfolded, evidence began to mount against Shinji. Several witnesses reported seeing him near the area where Megumi was last seen. Some even claimed to have overheard suspicious conversations or noticed him acting oddly on the day Megumi disappeared. The police arrested Shinji and interrogated him for hours. Under pressure, he eventually confessed to abducting and murdering Megumi. According to his confession, he lured her away from her home, strangled her, and then disposed of her body in a nearby forest. The confession sent shockwaves through Kobe and the entire country. People could not believe that a boy so young could commit such a brutal crime. The media sensationalized the case, painting Shinji as a cold-blooded killer and sparking widespread fear among parents and communities. However, the confession itself soon became a source of controversy. Doubts emerged about the reliability of the police interrogation tactics, and questions were raised about whether Shinji was coerced or pressured into admitting guilt. Many experts and legal advocates pointed out that Shinji was a minor with limited understanding of his rights and the seriousness of the situation. The interrogation was reportedly conducted without a lawyer or guardian present, raising serious ethical concerns. Some argued that the police may have used aggressive or manipulative tactics to extract a confession, which is not uncommon in high-profile cases where public pressure to solve the crime is intense. The trial that followed was heavily publicized and marked by a battle between the prosecution, who relied heavily on the confession, and the defense, which argued that Shinji was innocent and that the confession was false. The defense presented evidence suggesting inconsistencies in the timeline and pointed out that no physical evidence directly linked Shinji to the crime. Despite this, the court convicted Shinji, sentencing him to several years in a juvenile detention center. But the story did not end there. Years later, new developments cast further doubt on the verdict. Advances in DNA testing allowed for new forensic analysis of evidence collected from the crime scene. The results did not match Shinji, further fueling suspicions that he was wrongfully convicted. In addition, alternative suspects were proposed and some eyewitness accounts were re-examined. The case revealed major flaws in the investigation and judicial process. This case is a stark example of how miscarriages of justice can occur, especially when minors are involved and when the pressure to solve a crime is overwhelming. The Kobe child murders led to calls for reforms in how police interrogate young suspects and how confessions are treated as evidence in court. It also highlighted the importance of thorough and unbiased investigations to prevent innocent people from being punished for crimes they did not commit. The social impact of the Kobe child murders is also profound. Parents in Japan became more fearful and protective of their children, with increased discussions about child safety and the dangers that lurk even in familiar environments. The case also sparked debates about juvenile crime and whether minors should be held accountable in the same way as adults. Many wondered if the society was failing its youth by not addressing underlying issues such as mental health, family problems, and social isolation that could lead to tragic outcomes. One chilling aspect of the case is how it exposed the darker side of Japanese society that is often hidden beneath the surface of order and harmony. The notion that such a crime could happen in a quiet, prosperous city like Kobe challenged the idea that Japan is immune to the problems that plague other nations. It showed that violence and tragedy do not discriminate by location or age. For years after the case, Shinji maintained his innocence and continued to seek legal avenues to clear his name. The case remains a topic of debate and study among legal scholars, criminologists, and human rights advocates. It is often cited as a cautionary tale about the dangers of relying too heavily on confessions, especially from vulnerable individuals, and the need for a justice system that is fair, transparent, and accountable. If you think this story is already intense, here is something even more chilling. The way the media frenzy shaped public opinion created an atmosphere where fear and suspicion spread like wildfire. People began to distrust neighbors and strangers alike, and children were often accompanied by adults even for short walks. The psychological scars left by the case rippled through the community for years, shaping how people viewed safety and trust. This case is not just about a crime, it is about the ripple effects that a single tragic event can have on an entire society. It forces us to question how justice is served and at what cost. It challenges us to consider how we protect the most vulnerable among us and how we prevent innocent lives from being destroyed by a flawed system. The Kobe child murders remind us that beneath the surface of any peaceful society, there can be shadows lurking, shadows that demand attention, vigilance, and compassion. The case continues to be studied in law schools and police academies as an example of what can go wrong and how important it is to uphold human rights even in the face of horrifying crimes. In the end, the true story of what happened to Megumi Yokota remains a mystery. The official verdict may have closed the case legally, but the questions linger, echoing in the hearts of those who seek truth and justice. It is a reminder that real crime stories are never just about criminals. They are about victims, families, communities, and the fragile line between justice and injustice. Cases like this also force us to reflect on the role of society in preventing such tragedies. How do we create environments where children are safe and nurtured? How do we support troubled youth before they spiral into darkness? The Kobe child murders are a painful but crucial lesson in the ongoing effort to protect and heal. If you want to understand the complexities behind real Japanese crime cases, the Kobe child murders are a chilling yet important chapter. They expose the fragility of innocence, the dangers of rushed justice, and the deep wounds that such crimes leave behind. These stories are never easy to hear, but they are vital to remember so that history does not repeat itself. So the next time you think about safety and justice, remember that the Kobe child murders is where the conversation about truth, fairness, and compassion in crime investigation must begin. It is a story that demands reflection, empathy, and an unyielding commitment to doing better for the sake of every child and every community.